cool November morning to teach you a little bit about what I consider a hybrid string walking method that works quite well. We're going to be using a standard recurve bow, standard finger tabs, standard arrow, only a shelf. There's no peep sight on the rear, there's no sights of any kind. The technique that I'm going to show you, string walking, has been around for a while. It involves changing the gap between the top of your finger and the arrow itself depending on the distance to the target. The idea is that the larger the gap, the shorter the distance. What I do that's different is instead of actually anchoring off to the side and having to look down the side of the arrow like this all the time at my target, that additional parallax ends up throwing your whole sight process off. Instead, what I've actually done is adapt the recurve archery technique, which is where you actually anchor directly underneath your chin and look down the left side of your string. You look right over the top. In this case, I'll look right at the tip of the arrow. So if you, my camera, were actually my 30-yard target, I would be making a gap. I would be making a gap of about 2.5 fingers in width, shifting my fingers down. Then I'll still anchor my fingers directly underneath my chin, and I'll put the tip of the arrow right smack on the center of the target. Just like that. Here's what it looks like. The target that you see out there, that should be 20 yards, that should be 30 yards. So on a 20-yard target, actually I misspoke earlier, a 20-yard target, it's going to be about 2.5 finger widths. Line up, tip of the arrow right in the center of the target. That's a pretty good shot. Now we have 30 yards out there. I'm going to knock the arrow in the exact same position. A 30-yard target, it's going to actually be 2 full fingers instead of 2.5. Same technique. So here's my 2 fingers again. I'm going to try to let you look right over my shoulder. I'd say that's a pretty good distance. And what you get, drawing straight underneath your chin and looking down the sight, looking down the side of the string and looking right at the top of the tip of the arrow. You take out any left or right play at all. Distance doesn't matter. You're not going to be tipping the arrow a little bit for 20, a little bit more for 30, a little bit more for 40, a little bit more for 50. It's all gone by using this anchoring technique, the recurve archery, Olympic archery technique, along with the string walking. What you've effectively done is this. Where most compound bows have a front sight with a number of different pins, but a single rear sight, what they're doing to change the elevation of the arrow is change the elevation of the bow by lifting the front up. The relative position of the rear stays the same, but you're going to change it. You're going to change it. If this is your 20-yard position, then this is your 30, this is your 40, this is your 50, this is your 60, something like that. With my technique, you're actually pretty much keeping the front of the bow right where it is, and instead you're changing the gap here and you're tipping the arrow this way. So this is your 20-yard position, this is your 30-yard position, this is your 40-yard position, this is your 50-yard position, this is your 60, 70, and 80-yard position. And in case you're curious, yeah, 80 yards is possible with this technique. We're going to try a half finger gap at that distance. Now I got a half finger gap. We're going to try it one more time at 50 yards. Draw back under my chin, look down the left side of my string, put the tip of the arrow on the center of the target. Did you see where that was? It's the first shot at 20 yards, and there's the 20-yard plaque is right down there. It is at 30 yards. I end up with one kill shot, one near kill shot, and I've got one arrow that flies a little high. And then to 50, you can see that if you warm up just a little bit, there's a 50-yard shot with string walking. There's a lot of people who would call that a kill shot. You may not get the heart of the deer, but you would have picked him off in the lung, something like that. So what am I saying? It's going to be a 3 arrow gap for 15 yards. I'm going to draw back, put the tip of the arrow right in the center of the target. We got a deer. All right, now we're shooting at 20 yards, exact same arrows, exact same front sight, tip of the arrow on the center of the target, only this time it's going to be 2.5, a slightly smaller gap. Here we go. Shot a little low, it's cold out. 1, 2, it was 2. We're going to try 2.25 this time, and you'll see that I just went with 2.5, and then you split the difference on 2.5 and you get 2.25. I'm going to slide my fingers down very carefully there. Put the tip of the arrow right on the center of the target, and a much better shot. Okay, now we're aiming at the 30 target. What does my 30 gap look like? It's going to be about 2 minus 1/4, so 2, I'll go 2.5, there's, or 1.5, there's 1 3/4. Slide my finger down to make that gap. Draw back under my chin, left side of the string, look over the top, put the tip of the arrow right in the center. Just a hair high on the yellow, right on the line breaker. But I probably would have got the deer. You know, a heart's pretty big. If my 50 is a half of a finger, then my 40, we're going to try a 1 finger gap exactly there. And we're going to try 40. Draw back, put the tip on the center, let her go. Let's go see what that looked like. So there's 15 yards, absolutely a kill shot. There's 20 yards. 1 kill shot and one's off, but like I said, I got 1 straight arrow. So another 30 yards, we're right at the edge of the ring. If he was standing still, I'd have still got him. I wouldn't even have spined him at that point. 40's right at the bottom there. On a big enough deer, I would have picked off the bottom of his heart. I'd still be chasing that deer through the woods and I'd get him. I'm looking down it like this. So if I put the tip of the arrow right on you or the camera, you're my target right there. And then I release. That's the string walking that takes all the left and right play out. Hit the target. Let's shoot some more. That's better. Hopefully you can hear the thump. It's actually saying thump when it lands. Back to the technique. Draw back underneath my chin, eye lining up along the left-hand side of the string, putting the tip of the arrow right smack on the target and doing a very relaxed release. Do a couple more and then go look. Oh, that looked really nice. Really good. Still on the target. It's cold out. When you got a leather glove on, your fingers get cold, your release gets bad. All right, last one. Another pretty good looking shot. 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's the target. Out of 6 shots, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stray. 1 close to being on center. Notice very little left to right shift. Picking my gap, anchoring underneath my chin like this instead of off to the side like that. Putting the tip of the arrow on the target and releasing as cleanly as I can. Listen for the thunk. Nice shot. That would look good. Do a couple more. Also pretty good. 9. Pretty good again. 10 o'clock left. Maybe in the blue. Same thing. 9 o'clock left in the blue. That one made a nice silent thump. That's in the money. Last shot. Oh, that was a good shot. It goes really quiet because the inside of the target's all mushy. And here's 75 meters, 80 yards. Dead center. Look at the variation here. Very little left to right variation. A couple up in the corner. But look at that. A dead nut shot using pond scum hybrid string walking at 80 yards. Dead center with nothing but a hand